All right, welcome to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. Before we get to our guests, which you can kind of see over each way, so they can wave if they want, but we'll get to them here in just a minute. But we have sponsors. Yes, people actually pay to be a sponsor of this. So it's a long list, so settle in. It's getting longer every day. So we need to thank Robin Winston, been with us from the start, both on the newsletter and the podcast. We have former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson. Her newest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America, is out. We need to thank former two-term governor and two-term U.S. Senator Evan Bayh. Thank you, Senator, for all of your support. We have a cat walking across my desk here, so let me get him down. We have State Representative Cherish Pryor, great supporter of both the newsletter and the podcast now. And we should not forget Senator Gray Taylor, again, with us from the start. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Terry, you're a proud sponsor of the newsletter, so thank you. And so a long list of sponsors getting longer. So we want to make sure they get their recognition. Joining me tonight is Hamilton County Democratic Chairman Josh Lowry and former state representative. And you put doctor in front of your name tonight. I saw that.
Yeah, it looks so formal.
Damn, that changes everything now.
That's just like, I've never had to even put my name on there before.
Really?
So I'm not sure what the protocol was.
Anyway, you see Dr. Terry Goodin.
Hey, Terry's fine. You know how that works.
Well, I wanted to bring you guys on today because there's a lot in the news, an awful lot. But one thing that caught my eye today was that Governor Mike Braun wants to see children starve this summer. I'm being a little facetious there in one way. In one way, I'm not, because he went out of his way to turn down millions of dollars from the federal government that would have fed middle class and poor children this summer. And he doesn't give an explanation. He just did it. So I wanted to get you guys on here tonight and get your thoughts on it. And we'll start with you, Josh.
It's not shocking, and yet it still pisses me off every time. Mike Braun you see, my dogs are mad. That's what's going on. Like,
who let the dogs out?
they run this entire thing on the idea that they're the party of family, they're the party of family values, and they won't even feed children. Mm-hmm. The most basic human necessity is food and water, right? And the one category of people that we all agree we should help, because they can't help themselves, as children. And they're turning down basically free money to the state, at least, for kids to eat. And it's not even just the hypocrisy. At this point, it's borderline evil. They know that they can not only get away with anything, but I just don't understand why he doesn't want kids to eat, right? Like, forget the political part of it. What is wrong with this guy? Why doesn't he want kids to eat?
You know, and when I heard about it, and I believe it's like a little over $100. It goes onto an EBT card that goes out to people that get free lunch or reduced lunch, which is a large part of his base, the MAGA base. I mean, you know, you have rural counties out here, rural schools, where 50, 60, 70% of the kids are on free and reduced lunch, and he's taking this money basically right out of their mouths. And and Terry, we'll get to you, because when we take a look at what the state government did this budget cycle, I mean, forget about the $180,000 helipad at the personal residence of the governor that tax dollars paid for. Forget about the 90,000 SUVs that Micah Beckwith with a Q is driving around in, or Diego Morales. Forget that we're spending $100 million to send the wealthiest kids to private schools. I mean, think about that for a minute. If Elon Musk, and I think Representative Hamilton said this on one of my shows. Think about this for a second. If Elon Musk moved to Indiana, his 14 kids would get vouchers to go to their swanky private schools. So just for a second, Terry, talk a little bit about your thoughts on this, because you've been a school superintendent. You've been there, you've been in the fight. So what does this mean to children that maybe don't get 3 squares a day?
You know, Gary, first of all, I'm disgusted by the move. And, you know, as a school superintendent, I worked hard every day to make sure that every child came prepared to school to be able to learn. Part of that preparation is to make sure they had food in their stomach, because if their stomach's back there gnawing at them, there's no way they can learn in a classroom, right? So to begin with, that is one of the basic human needs, is you've got to have food to be able to function and operate and to grow and to be healthy. So what you see is just a basic move that is trying to underpin or undercut the support structure in our state. And what we see is they're picking winners and losers just in the program itself, Gary, that they are eliminating the sun bucks. Now, here's the deal. Here's how this works. I'm very familiar with this. I dealt with it every day as a superintendent. School corporations in these rural areas are open in the summertime. And what we did, and what I did as a school superintendent, I created summer programs and created all kinds of after school programs, just because I knew the first requirement is the kids had to eat. That was how they got to participate in the programs, is they would eat, because that was the only way that I knew, as you said, Gary, that they're going to get 3 squares. And what we could do is we could guarantee they could get 2 squares. We provided breakfast and we provided lunch. And then what we would do is in the after school programs, we'd send food home with them, because who knows if the younger brothers, older brothers, sisters, whoever. And that was one of the biggest pushes as a school superintendent. And I'll say as mine, and I know there's a lot of other school superintendents who have that same push. And I know one specific school superintendent back in the 70s created summer programs just because they could, just sports programs and band programs to get kids at school so they could eat. And the state was funding free lunches during the summertime back as far back as the 70s and 1980s, but they had to get the kids there to school. So what this superintendent did is they ran a bus route and picked kids up even back in those days to get kids there to eat. Now, here's the deal. The winners, kids who live in urban areas, they can walk sometimes to where they need to be able to access this food. The losers, kids who live in rural areas or quasi-rural areas, because you're not going to get on your bicycle at 11 a.m. and ride 7 miles or 8 miles or 15 miles into town to pick up a bag
across
lunch.
town,
Across town,
park.
across country, across the entire county. So what we've got once again is a misunderstanding of how everyday people in Indiana live. And that's what we've got as a multitude coming all the way from the very top down to the bottom is they just don't know how people live. And they make these decisions based on ignorance, and not ignorance of, I don't mean that in a generic sense. I mean a specific interest. They just don't know what life's all about, because they've had everything. They've never had to struggle. They've never had to worry about where the next meal was. So they base all of their decisions on what they know. And they don't know it all, but they think they do. And I could go on, Gary. I could take up your entire 30 minutes, because I am so disgusted when I saw that they were cutting out those free lunches. I just couldn't believe it. I'm still in awe. I mean, I'm hurt by it, really. There's going to be kids, and here's why I'm hurt. There's going to be kids this summer, Gary, that are going to be sitting at home, and bellies are going to be hurting, and they're going to be hungry, and they're not going to be able to go anywhere and have anything to eat. And that makes me sick, man. I'm going to use Josh's terms. That pisses me off. It really does.
First of all, I was shocked that Trump didn't cancel it. Just shocked that it somehow it has not been cut before the states even had a chance. Number two, I've worked in an inner city school. I spent a year as a life skills in an inner city school teaching, kids that kindergarten and first grade special needs. And we had some kids in there where we would have to wash their clothes in the morning because their parents didn't or couldn't. We would go and the principal would literally go around and collect all the free fruit and stuff for the afternoon snack they didn't eat and send it home with kids because they knew they probably weren't eating.
Right.
And and by the way, that's been cut too. So I believe they don't even get that anymore. So Josh, when we see the hypocrisy in state government with all they're spending money on, including pay raises for the governor, for the lieutenant governor, for Micah to drive around and do his pastoral reach out on taxpayer dollars. They don't want to feed kids. And see, I was looking, maybe there was some kind of, I don't know, strings attached to this money. Like maybe they had to be told about COVID or something, and that's why they were just being stupid. But as far as I can tell, this was just free money that fed children.
It was, Gary, and I can interject into that once again as well. I don't mean to talk over Josh, but what this was money that was placed on an EBT card.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids,
we got it for our kid last year.
All right, so they could spend that money then at the grocery store whenever they were able to get to the grocery store, and if they had to go buy it for a week's. A kid may not be in town if they live out in rural Indiana. They may not even go to town once a week, so they could go to wherever they were in town, whatever that place may be, and buy food and take it home and have it for the rest of the week. So what this does is it gives every child an equal playing field, an equal opportunity to be able to purchase food. Because what happens is we know that there's still going to be schools that are going to be open in these feeding centers, but guess what? They're open from 11 to 1 o'clock in the day. We can't get there. You can't get kids there. And that's the reason they're doing it, Gary. They're trying to cut this program. And here's how you do it. How do you finally say, oh, well, this program's not working, that it's not working? We've got this many 100,000 kids who need free lunches, but they don't even come and get them. Right? Mm-hmm. That's what's the next phrase they're going to say. Well, we offer all this free food and they won't even come get it. Then the next step is, okay, look, we're going to cut this program because the people aren't participating in it. So this is just the first step. Watch it very closely as we get gradually down the road here in a year or two. This is the first step, is saying, okay, we're going to eliminate the program totally, all free programs in the summertime, not just the Sunbucks. Mark my word on it.
Can both of you hold through the break and we'll get your final thoughts on this? You're listening to the SnydeReport podcast. We'll be back in a minute.
It's rock and roll. It's racing. It's Miller Lite Carb Day. Co-headlined by the All-American Rejects and Bret Michael. Friday, May 23rd at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Following the final Indy 500 practice and the Pit Stop Challenge. Concert, pit, and VIP tickets available now at ims.com.
All right, welcome back to the SnydeReport. I am your host, Gary Snyder. We are speaking with Hamilton County Democrat Chair Josh Lowry and Dr. Terry Goodin, former state representative.
Right. Get it right, man.
And nominee for lieutenant governor. So, Josh, final thoughts on this. When you look at everything that the state is spending money on, what they are increasing spending money on. We do this now at the kitchen table. You can kind of see the corner of it back there. Families are sitting around that, trying to figure out, especially with these tariffs, everything going up, how they're going to make that money last. This is just a kick right in the nuts to them.
Yeah, you know what? And maybe I'm thinking about this. Maybe we're being unfair to Governor Braun, right? Because maybe we need to give him credit that at least he's consistent, right? Because for a long time, Republicans would cut benefits to, lower income people and people in need. And the idea was, well, that's not their voters, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just trying to stick it to the Democrats. But now Governor Braun is cutting food benefits for a lot of his voters. And so we have to give him credit for at least being consistent with the fact that he doesn't give a shit about any kids, let alone party. Because I just can't understand any justification for this. I understand what Dr. Goodin was saying, but to me, it kind of boggles my mind that their goal is just to tear down the government and they don't care what happens. And this is what we're seeing at the federal level, and we're seeing it at the state level. What's about to be really interesting is before there used to always be this kind of push and pull of, okay, my guy won. And so now I get the benefits I want, why they take away the other people's benefits, right? And with Trump and Braun, this is the first time we've ever seen where they come in and they're just slashing their own people's stuff.
Do they even realize who their voter is?
No, and I think what it is they've gotten so brazen that they think, you know what, I literally can piss on my voters and tell them it's raining. I think that they think that nothing can hurt them, nothing could cost them a
But
vote.
they can. There's been no pushback at the ballot box. None.
Yeah. So one of the things that stuck out to me the most when I was running last time, I went knocking doors in an income adjusted housing area in Sheridan. And there was a woman that said to me, hey, the utilities are going up. I'm not going to be able to afford these because I'm on a, adjusted income. And she said, why is this happening? And I was like, well, I mean, the state could do something about it, but they don't. And she said, well, why don't they? Like, that hurts me. I said, ma'am, how have you voted every election for the last 2 decades? She's like, always Republican. And I said, there's your answer. They don't have to do anything to get your vote, and they can literally hurt you, and they still have your vote. And so I think you're right, Gary, is, maybe Trump and Braun aren't being as stupid as we think. Maybe they're looking at it and saying, I can do anything I want, and my voters will still vote for me. And maybe they're right.
Well, Trump told us he could go out and shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue, and he figuratively has. And, he's president today. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I tell you what, Gary, the more I think about it, I've been stewing about this ever since I heard the news, but I'm totally and completely disgusted. And let me say this. If you cannot have compassion for a hungry child, you have no place in leadership anywhere, whether that be government or any other entity. Bottom line.
All right. Next up, the ACLU today filed suit to get the IU trustees allow the alumni to allow voting for 3 of the people on the board of trustees for Indiana University. We had former Fort Wayne Mayor Paul Helmke on about this, and he was pretty animated about it. Former Republican, I don't think he still considers himself. He may. I don't want to speak for him, but it's funny how they singled out just Indiana University, none of the other universities, and it's a good thing to see the ACLU get involved in this and try to fight this takeover. I mean, it's an ideological takeover of Indiana University, and I can guarantee you that it has to do with the protests that were there last year, and it's their way to quell any dissent that happens on this campus. Josh?
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know the way it works, so I'm an IU grad, and the governor basically, one way or another, gets to appoint 6 of the 9 trustees, and trustees are basically in charge of the college. Before, as alumni, we always got to vote on a rotating basis on one of the 3. So 3 of them, I had a friend run, I think it was last year or the year before when they did it, pushed for him and voted for him. And so the governor is still going to have the majority of the people he wants making the decision. But this let us at least have 3 people on that trustee board that, we're thinking from the students' perspective, from the alumni, that we were saying we wanted on there. And this, to me, is the equivalent of what Trump is doing at Harvard, right? They just have this belief that there must be some sort of indoctrination happening, because why else would a bunch of people go to college and become Democrats? I think it's kind of pretty obvious, like, hey, I became more educated, I started voting Democrat. Maybe, just maybe, there's something there. It's not indoctrination. It's one side believes in science, one doesn't. One is going around causing measles again, the other's not. It's pretty easy to understand how an educated person would vote Democrat over the Republicans right now. And the irony to me of all this, the same reason they hate colleges, they know it's not true. Because Trump hates Harvard like Braun hates IU. Do you guys know where Governor Braun got his MBA from?
Not a clue.
Harvard.
Not a clue.
Yeah, Harvard.
So Harvard really clearly does a great job of indoctrinating students.
No kidding, huh?
They did such a great job. They produced Mike Braun. Great job of
Yeah,
liberal
thanks for that
indoctrination
one.
right there, Harvard. Appreciate that.
Terry?
You know, we've talked about this in the past, Gary, and it's just another example of if you don't agree with me, we'll just take away your right to be able to disagree. And the contempt for those people who do not agree with you. Hey, as we said before, there's going to be difference in opinions, right? Gary loves strawberry milk and I like chocolate milk. So, I mean, I don't know, Josh, I'm not sure. There's just people have different choices. It's okay to disagree. As a matter of fact, our government was founded on disagreement and a compromise. And what these folks
Don't go into compromise again.
well, I know, but
Damn
literally,
it.
that's the
Beckwith.
well, so what they're trying to do is break down the two-party system that was created by our founding fathers, because the founding fathers knew that there was differences. So what we'll do is there's two political parties. We will create the two, and then they can come together and meet in the middle and work out their differences. And they're trying to completely destroy the whole concept of the founding fathers' establishment of the United States of America. And it's too bad. It's too bad.
Josh, I've got a quick question for you before we move on to our last subject. I read that in Hamilton County, Fishers, is it? Maybe Carmel too, that they have outlawed renting single family houses or something like that.
No, so what happened was they put a cap on the number of single family homes that could be rented
Okay.
within an area. And my understanding, actually, because we do have a Democrat on the city council there's all they got to get a screen time, is that was the result of there were corporations, I guess, from New York coming in and buying up a swath of the homes and turning around and renting them at higher rates. Because these were big corporations, they can outbid your local, you or me trying to buy a house. And so that was actually in response to that.
Okay. So, Terry, anything else, either one of you on the IU stuff?
I think it's pretty clear there's just a blatant overreach of power by the General Assembly and the governor's office. It's pretty plain.
I want to end tonight because here in Indiana, we have a lot happening. There's a lot that should be the focus of our Congress people in Washington. There is a lot happening in Washington that should attract the attention of our congressman. And my Congressman Marlin Stutzman, who would take his families on vacations at his campaign expense, today said that to level the playing field for American Wagyu farmers, which you are one, Terry.
I am. Yes, sir.
Representative Marlin Stutzman introduced a bill that opens the door for the president to place a tariff of up to 70% on Wagyu meat, semen, and conventional embryos imported from Australia.
There goes the neighborhood, man. Wow. What do I say, Gary?
That's why I'm asking you. You're the one that would import semen.
Well, we have, I have imported semen, and I all of that, but you know, it's all about the quality of that.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold on. I don't want to interrupt.
So,
I have imported semen. You can't just keep moving.
Bull semen. Yeah, bull semen. Yeah. So of course, I'm a cattle farmer, and that's how we improve our genetics. You can have 15 bulls on your farm instead of just one. And it's a pretty inexpensive way, really, to be able to diversify your genetics on your cattle farm. And a lot of cattle farmers use that protocol of artificial insemination.
Turkey basters?
No, I'm not even gonna go there, man. I'm not even gonna go there. But you know what I found out about the cost of all of these agricultural products was the fact that you paid for quality and you paid for the genetics that you were buying. So I'm not sure how a tariff would really level that playing field, other than the fact that we would have inferior genetics, maybe that they would want to use on farms because they're cheaper.
Maybe Marlin's just mad because his semen isn't being used.
No,
comment, man.
We
No
we got
comment
the
here. You're
government
not
is
going to take me
literally
down that road, man. I know what you're thinking. I can see it in your eyes, man. We'll leave it at agricultural products. But really, all jokes aside,
I
the
wasn't
tariff.
joking.
Yeah, I know you're not. I know you're not. But the tariffs on these agricultural products are absolutely destroying American farmers,
Go ahead, Josh.
losing market after market
the
because of it.
government is so worried that our birth rate is too low that they're wanting to pay women to have kids. Now is not the time to be putting tariffs on semen. This is just counterintuitive, guys. We
Right,
gotta.
right, right. We know at the end of the day, and
Well, next
all
thing you know, there'll be tariffs on turkey basters. So
well, there probably already is. They're probably made in China, right? So okay, that's a whole different
No,
story.
wait. We got one last question, Dr. Gooden.
Yeah.
Where do you import your semen from?
So, it just depends on what genetics you're looking for. If you want a calf that has low birth weight, then you'll look for bulls that have that low birth weight calves. So whatever you're looking for in your genetic scheme is where you'll search out that semen. But I've found out that the best semen, bull semen that we've used in our farmers from
I'm
America.
sorry. My wife tells me I'm still in 8th grade. So
Well,
I'm
she
not
give me
mature enough
credit,
to
man.
do
I
this. I
say
can't do it.
6. I've been in schools, man. You're at the 6th grade level. So no, but it is, and it's serious business. I mean, there's big dollars that go into that. I mean, it's real serious business, and I jest about it because I'm not invested as heavily as a lot of American beef farmers are in those agricultural products. And man, there's some folks that are really heavily invested in that, and that could cause some real serious damage if they try to start fooling around with all of that.
well, hopefully these tariffs don't come to fruition.
Right. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
So
So
so far they're just at conception. They
Yeah.
haven't actually reached full term. So
well, yeah.
Marlin's worried about it. So, all right, before we let you guys go, we need to thank our sponsors again. We have Robin Winston, sponsor of both the newsletter and the podcast, help get both of these going, so you can blame him. Next up is former Congresswoman Jill Long Thompson, her latest book, Across the Aisle, Why Bipartisanship Works for America. We have Congressman Andre Carson working for re-election. So, make sure that you pay attention to what the congressman is doing as we get into election season. And I will add, primary is 1 year away, less than a year away. So, Josh is going to get really busy. Also, we have former 2-term governor and 2-term U.S. Evan Bayh. So let's thank a great Hoosier there and Senator Bayh. We have, I'm reading my list here. See how long it's getting? We have State Representative Cherish Pryor, a longtime sponsor of the newsletter. Glad to have her over here on the podcast, along with State Senator Greg Taylor. I am Gary Snyder. They are not. They are Josh Lowry and Dr. Terry Goodin. This is the SnydeReport podcast. Hit that button below, subscribe, like this podcast, leave us a comment, tell us how juvenile we are. We are out.